Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The Senate has yet to vote on the infrastructure bill, and Biden's about to unveil another trillion-dollar scheme. Are you ready? Manhattan no longer prosecutes prostitution. What are the reasons behind this odd move? A third forensic audit in Arizona Maricopa County is set to begin this Friday, and there's a big difference this time. The George Floyd Act doesn't address racial injustice, as you might expect. Why are Biden and Harris pushing it? Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Are Americans ready for another trillion-dollar bill? After the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan and the $2.2 trillion plus American Jobs Plan, Biden is expected to unveil his third grandiose package, the American Families Plan. The Families Plan will focus on social assistance on a scale of $1.5 trillion in total new spending and new tax credits. Based on media reports, analysis notes, and official statements, the plan is expected to address the following. First, childcare. This would be the biggest priority with a roughly $225 billion budget. Second, universal pre-kindergarten. Biden aims to provide instruction to all 3- and 4-year-olds. It's an estimated cost of $200 billion. Third, paid family leave. Biden campaigned for 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave, which reportedly will cost $225 billion. Last but not least, free community college is also on the table. Joe Biden said Monday, Biden is concerned about education, quote, so that all Americans can go to community college, have the support they need to finish, and get good jobs. The new family plan is precisely a socialist agenda. Big government starts to take care of your family and your private life. If free community college becomes a fact, people won't need to work hard anymore to get into universities and find jobs because college is free and they assign you a job right after anyway. Do you like this idea? Who's going to pay to make that happen? More tax hikes? The Senate has yet to vote on Biden's multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure plan, and his administration is about to introduce another massive spending scheme. Do you know how much debt America is in already? If you aren't sure, please check out our episode from yesterday. On the heavily disputed infrastructure bill, Senate Republicans are concerned Democrats will use budget reconciliation one more time to bypass the filibuster rule and push it through. On April 5th, Senate parliamentarian green-lighted the second use of budget reconciliation for Democrats to pass Biden's infrastructure package. A new development in the White House suggests Biden wants to abuse this use for another hotly disputed issue. On Tuesday, Biden told Latino members of Congress that he supports the idea of moving legislation on immigration reform using budget reconciliation with a simple Democrat majority. The reform is expected to be an amnesty for illegal immigrants in the nation. From the way Biden and Harris handled the border crisis, the ban of the use of the term illegal aliens, and now the push for amnesty, it looks like the Democrats already gave up winning over Americans. They're investing big on foreign illegals. If Senate parliamentarian approves the third budget reconciliation bill again, it then opens a dangerous precedent that the Democrats will be able to pass sweeping partisan legislation with a razor-thin margin in the Senate. On the very same day following Derek Chauvin's guilty conviction, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris urged Congress to pass the George Floyd Act to combat, quote, systematic racism in the nation. The full name of the bill is the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which passed the Democrat-controlled House in March and is waiting for a vote in the Senate. What would this act do? The bill would ban certain police techniques, including chokeholds and carotid holds. Federal funding for state police agencies would be dependent on those agencies adopting the new law. The bill will establish improved police training and invest in community programs designed to promote equitable new policies. We don't comment on whether or not police should use potentially deadly force in subduing criminals, but interestingly, as you can see, this act doesn't address racism in the least. Biden said the death of George Floyd is, quote, a stain on our nation's soul, but the Chauvin verdict was a step forward. Harris claims Chauvin's conviction will not heal the pain that existed for generations, and she urged all Americans to be part of George Floyd's legacy and honor him.
This verdict brings us a step closer, and the fact is, we still have work to do. We still must reform the system. We are all a part of George Floyd's legacy, and our job now is to honor it and to honor him.
George Floyd didn't sacrifice his life for racial justice that night. He didn't intend to die, and he shouldn't have died. However, George Floyd can never be a national model for people to honor. Police arrested Floyd a total of 9 times on drug, theft, and aggravated robbery charges. Not a single Democrat brought up this fact. Moreover, tragedies like what happened to Floyd are simply countless. Like what we revealed previously, more white people die from police shootings than black each year. On the other side, police officers get killed too. Last June, retired police captain David Dorn was fatally shot by a 24-year-old black man, Stephen Cannon, in St. Louis. Cannon was charged with first-degree murder, first-degree robbery, and first-degree burglary. How many people heard about this crime? In most cases, Americans are only informed when white police officers shoot people of color. Floyd's death has become a stepping stone, serving the Biden administration in pushing its agenda. On Wednesday, Biden said he believes the bar is too high for convicting police officers. He's going to address police reform legislation in his first speech to a joint session of Congress next week. Maxine Waters said she's relieved but not celebrating after Chauvin's guilty verdict. Biden and Harris called for a start to police reform. BLM continued its protest regardless. Democrats and activists are holding back their satisfactions, but there's one group that's outspokenly happy about the outcome. Hollywood stars broke out in celebration Tuesday night, saying justice has been served. Many celebrities thanked jurors. Actress Barbra Streisand said, "The citizens on the Minnesota jury deserve heartfelt thanks for weighing the overwhelming evidence and pronouncing Derek Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts." But did they know the jury wasn't sequestered after the fatal police shooting of Daunte Wright? Did they watch what the judge said after Maxine Waters' inflammatory comments? And how could they know the evidence was overwhelming? The fairness of this trial is in question if they take justice seriously. But that's Hollywood in its ignorance. A 2020 poll found 39% of sports fans don't like how political the NBA has become. A new poll should be conducted on how political Hollywood has become. Now, before we continue, if you like our program, please subscribe to support the show. It'll help you and more people to access our program. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider helping us by utilizing the Teespring link in the description to purchase a mug that matters. And for those who have a mug that matters, let's make a toast to free speech while we still have it. Salute. Manhattan will no longer prosecute prostitution and unlicensed massage. District Attorney Cy Vance Jr. made the announcement Wednesday. Vance asked the judge Charlotte Davison to toss out nearly 6,000 bench warrants related to prostitution, unlicensed massage, and loitering. Some of these cases dated back to the 70s and 80s. Vance said, quote, "Over the last decade, we've learned from those with lived experience and from our own experience on the ground. Criminally prosecuting prostitution does not make us safer," end quote. But now prosecuting prostitution, Vance essentially announced in Manhattan, prostitution is legal. Vance claimed the dismissal has given New York City a chance to end its anti-loitering statute for its decades of discriminatory enforcement, which unfairly targets members of the LGBTQ+ community. Why is anti-loitering a problem to the LGBTQ+ community? The loitering for the purpose of prostitution law was enacted in 1976, also known as the Walking While Trans ban. Advocates say the law, which is meant to target sex workers only, allows officers to arbitrarily arrest and detain New Yorkers for simply walking around or standing on the street. They say trans women, and particularly trans women of color, are disproportionately targeted this way because of the way they dress. Governor Andrew Cuomo already signed legislation repealing parts of this anti-loitering law on February 2nd. New York police can no longer arrest sex workers attempting to stop people on the street. The left claims they care so much about the dignity of transgenders and people of color, but what about the real prostitutes on the street? It's no longer a crime for them to promote prostitution in public. What about the dignity of New Yorkers offended by sex workers? Maybe, like what Vance said, that doesn't affect New Yorkers' safety level anyway, but it absolutely degenerates Manhattan's moral standards and probably creates some monetary interest for the governors themselves. Decriminalizing the criminals, assimilating illegals with legals. This is how Democrats run the nation. For people with real dignity, don't let their radical agendas affect your mood. And now let's turn to some good news. Republican lawmakers on Wednesday announced the largest Iran-sanctioned package in American history. The Maximum Pressure Act is meant to prevent the Biden administration from circumventing Congress in its diplomacy efforts with Iran and force Democrats to present any deal to Congress for a vote first. Republican Jim Banks said if the White House tries to bypass Congress and rejoin the Iran deal, the GOP will fight for maximum pressure campaign until Iran shuts down its nuclear program and stops supporting terrorist groups across the Middle East. Along with increased sanction on Iran's ballistic missile program, military and militia groups, the bill will set former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's 12 demands on Iran into law. Congress is also not bound to agreements by the president who purports to speak on their behalf. The new bill is a clear message to the White House that Republicans won't just lie down and accept an Iran deal. There will be a fight to protect America from foreign enemies. While Republicans push for stronger sanctions on Iran, on the other side of the world, Australia is confronting an angry CCP for revoking the Belt and Road Initiative that it signed with Beijing. The foreign minister said the deal was inconsistent with Australia's foreign policy. CCP relations with Australia were already strained when Australia became the first nation to publicly ban Chinese tech giant Huawei from its 5G network. To compound matters, Australia called for an independent investigation into origins of the CCP virus outbreak last year. Today, more nations are concerned that the gigantic loan scheme involved in the Belt and Road project is unsustainable for developing nations. Turning back to America, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem signed an executive order Wednesday banning the use of vaccine passports in both digital and paper formats. Noem said while she encourages all South Dakotans to get vaccinated against the virus, the state government won't make it a mandate. She argued the so-called vaccine passport is un-American. She said, "We're not going to restrict South Dakotans' exercise of their freedoms with un-American policies like vaccine passports. In our state, under God, the people rule." Despite the huge privacy concern in adopting the practice, requiring proof for vaccination discriminates against people who haven't or choose not to get vaccinated for various reasons. To date, Florida, Texas, Montana, Arizona, and now South Dakota, 5 red states have officially banned the practice of vaccine passports. There is also good news for Arizonians. The long-awaited forensic audit in Maricopa County is set to begin this Friday, April 23rd. State Senate Republicans have been fighting for this for more than 5 months. After prolonged political and legal maneuvering and challenges, the forensic audit will examine all 2.1 million ballots casted, as well as the machines used in the county's 2020 election. Senate President Karen Fann said the independent audit aims to restore voter confidence. One America News Network, a right-wing media outlet, will be live streaming the process. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors conducted 2 audits, but Republicans weren't satisfied. The previous audit scope wasn't broad enough to meet Senate Republicans' demand for a deep examination. The Senate also had no previous access to audit materials, but this time, the ballots and the machines are in the Senate's possession. Maricopa is Arizona's most populous county that includes Phoenix, where Biden won by just over 2% of the popular vote. The long-fought forensic audit is a win for Arizona's Republican voters too. We hope the audit process will be fair and transparent. And that's it for today, my friends. Please like and share, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. You can join me on our Eye Opener Telegram chat room. You can also follow me on Newmaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.